If this channel becomes known for anything, I would like it to become known as an art channel that has some of the most ridiculous yet unique ideas. And I think redesigning r/boss fight was a pretty good start to that. As you can see, I got the Brass Panda poster. He's up there now. I love it so much. But I also think that I can very easily top that. And so today we're going to be taking the formula of this channel, turning this thing into that thing, and tweaking it around a little bit, turning 3 serial mascots into some SCPs. First time ever working with SCPs, so let's see how this goes. Let's create some chaos. Hello everybody and welcome to the SCP featured presentation. That's what SCP actually stands for. Featured C presentation. Okay, maybe not. Anyway, you may refer to me as Professor Marcus Plague and only Professor Marcus Plague. Today, we'll be taking a look at 3 SCPs that all fall under the same subcategory of SCP-C. Let's begin. First off, item number SCP-C-045, object class Euclid. Special containment procedures. SCP-C-045 is to be housed inside of a man-made beehive stationed inside of an airtight containment cell. While this wouldn't be suitable for normal bees due to lack of sunlight, SCP-C-045 is not your run-of-the-mill type bee. A D-Class personnel should enter SCP-C-045 cell once a day for feeding. However, if the SCP is to get overly aggressive, the cell is to be flooded with smoke via a ventilation system that is no larger than 3 cm in diameter to prevent the SCP from escaping. The smoke is known to have soothing effects on SCP-C-045, leading them to a drowsy state that allows in C-Class personnel to enter the containment cell and restrain the SCP. Description: SCP-C... Okay. Are any of you actually going to remember these arbitrary numbers were given to these things? For the sake of my job, I will provide you with the numbers, but I'm actually going to throw in some of my own names just to make it a little easier when referring to each of these SCPs. For SCP-C-045, let's go with Honeypot. Continuing, the image I've been provided to show you is only to be used to have a clear visual representation of Hive. The SCP in question is actually a lot smaller in size than this picture would lead you to believe. It's about the size of a small dog, about a Boston Terrier, who can fly. Anyway, Hive's appearance resembles that of a yellow jacket with big eyes and yellow patterns across the face. Personnel have noticed that the Hive's patterns resemble that of a creepy smiling face, which is suspected to be used as a hunting technique alongside its mandibles. Moving past the head, you can see this is where Hive's appearance begins to differ from that of a yellow jacket. The subject has fuzzy shoulders that lead into thin, spindly arms with opposable digits, allowing SCP to grab and hold a handful of objects. See what I did there? Holding a handful? No? Okay, whatever. The main item that Hive can be seen holding is a long staff that resembles a honey dipper. The staff seems to perpetually secrete a substance that is similar in appearance and viscosity to actual real-world honey, though test results have shown that on a molecular level it does not share the same structure as honey and may be another trick that the subject uses to lure in its prey. The same substance can also be seen dripping from Hive's mouth when the subject is looking to feed. While normal bees and yellow jackets will subsist off of nectar and fruit, SCP-C-045 has a more carnivorous palate. Despite its small size, Hive is able to devour anything up to the size of an average human. In order to do this, the subject will utilize the sticky substance from the aforementioned honey dipper to lay a trap. This substance is very sticky and can prevent any and all movement once a prey has fallen into it. Once the subject's prey has fallen into the trap, like an idiot, Hive will begin to devour them slowly over the course of a few days. Granted, this could imply that Hive is able to devour something much larger than a human given the time, but the Foundation is yet to run those kinds of tests. Turning serial mascots into SCPs is an idea that I was sitting on for quite a while, and I didn't really think it would be the first ever SCP video I did on this channel, but I think it works. It was definitely a lot of fun to do. I just didn't think this would be the introductory for me and all of you into my channel covering SCP content. Hive, which I accidentally said honey pot in the script, I realized, for that first instance, Looking back on this one, I don't know why I didn't go with my first sketch of this thing. Because looking back at the time lapse, I saw the first sketch and I'm like, that looks really good. And of course, it's always good to have a second one, just like having different ideas and seeing how each of them works out. But I really like how the first sketch went, and I don't know why I didn't go for that one even after I drew the second one. It's possible I might have forgotten that I drew the first one after sketching the second one, but looking back, I definitely like the second one. I like the first one, but I guess that's how it is. But I still like what I went for with this one, especially when it's all finished and I can see it with the rendering and everything. It looks so good. I really love working with underlit things because it ups the creepy factor just a whole nother notch. Because this is essentially just a bee. I really just took a lot of inspiration from Yellow Jackets, which was horrible to look at. I do not like looking at insects up close. But I took reference and inspiration from that and didn't change much else, so it ends up looking a lot less Buzzbee or whatever the mascot's name from Honey Nut Cheerios is, and a lot more just base Yellow Jacket, which I have no problem with. It definitely got that creep factor across, but like adding that underlining made it look so much more creepy and monstrous than just a bee or a wasp or whatever a Yellow Jacket is. And drawing the honey too was a really fun thing to do. I don't know why, but there's something with the drawing of liquids that just make it look so good. I think it's maybe because there's such a small part of an overall drawing that like even just a little bit of rendering and shading and highlights can make it look so detailed. Item number SCP-C-064, but I'm going to call them The Charms. Object class, Euclid. Special containment procedure. The charms are to be contained within an ordinary containment cell without any furniture or additional objects. Only D-Class personnel should be given access to the room, and if they should succumb to the effects of SCP-C-064, they are to remain in the room and be observed by B-Class personnel. Documentation of the subject will continue for 1 to 2 months, after which the subject will be quarantined as an E-Class personnel. The now E-Class personnel will be observed for a period of up to 6 months, during which records will be kept to see if any of the effects from the charms have worn off or diminished. Description. As a warning, do not mistake the SCP in question with the leprechaun-like person that you are seeing. The actual SCP we are featuring is the Black Metal Cauldron and the colorful charms that are contained within. These charms come in several different shapes and colors. The main charms that have been observed are red balloons, orange stars, yellow hourglasses, green clovers, blue moons, and purple horseshoes, though different charms have been known to appear and disappear at random. Each of these charms have been seen to grant special powers when ingested. Speaking of which, the charms themselves have been reported to have soft and chewy texture, similar to that of marshmallows. Each of the powers seen seem to relate to the charm's shape in one way or another. For example, consuming the balloons will grant the person the ability to float around weightlessly for a short duration, while eating the stars will allow the subject to become luminescent. These periods of time have been measured to last for about as long as it takes the subject to digest the charms. Out of all the charms that have been observed so far, the most baffling one to the Foundation scientists have been the yellow hourglasses. It is theorized that consuming an hourglass will grant some kind of control over time, but that is not something that could easily be measured even with the technology that we have on hand. Although the charms themselves are tiny and the cauldron seems to refill itself when it's nearing empty, tests have shown that consuming multiple charms in one sitting does not increase the duration of any of the charm's effects, nor does it grant the ability to use every power simultaneously. Whether this is a limitation or the actual will of the cauldron remains to be discovered, but it appears that any subject can only utilize up to 2 of the charm's abilities at once. Upon ingesting the charms for the first time, every personnel that have come into contact with SCP-C-064 has begun to exhibit physical and mental changes. The affected will slowly become more and more consumed by greed, with the added constant anxiety that the surrounding people are trying to take the cauldron away from them. On occasion, several D-Class personnel were tasked with attempting to do just that and remove the cauldron from the room, which has caused the affected person to go into a violent rage and attack those trying to remove the cauldron. On the physical side of things, any personnel in contact with the charms will gradually start to resemble the common depiction of a goblin. Their skin will become rougher and more yellow, and their nails will grow to disturbing lengths and end in sharp points. Whether the person's mind and original thoughts can stay intact during any of these transformations remains to be documented, although so far no cases have shown any indication that an affected person is able to recall their life prior to consuming the charms. Sometimes I wish I wasn't such a high-ranking official here. I'd go in there, shove handfuls of charms down my throat, and tell scientists what each one of them did one by one. No one's overcome the leprechaun state, so what? That's a first time for everything. But my position at the Foundation forbids me from coming into any contact with these anomalous beings. Now this one, SCP-C-064 might be my favorite one out of the three. Although there are a lot of elements in the next one you'll see that I really like as well. But for this one, it's the first one I did, and I really tried to push the rendering stage more, specifically the shadows and the highlights. Usually when I'm drawing something, I'll use 2 shadow layers and 2 highlight layers. The shadow layers on multiply, the highlight layers on overlay, and keep them all at about 50 or 60 opacity. For Lucky, or the Charms, or whatever you want to call it, I took 1 shadow and 1 highlight layer and bumped them up to around 75 to 80% opacity instead to really up the shadow and the highlight more, which really works for this one particularly because you can see that one defined light source in the piece from the hourglass charm that he's holding. For Honey Hive, so much I don't think it would have worked because the lighting or this light source wasn't in the piece itself, so it would have definitely given it a little more depth, but might not have made as much sense, especially with the underlighting going on. I also want to get a lot better at faking detail. As you can expect, I wasn't going to go through and draw hundreds of individual oats just to give the pot a little bit more depth. So I messed around with a couple of different shading and texture brushes, and then on top of that went in and drew some basic shapes of what the oats in Lucky Charms would look like, just to get across that, hey, this is not a pot of oatmeal, which is what it ended up looking at. But the faking part of it is something I want to improve on, not so much doing the bare minimum, but doing enough where it can be, at a glance, it's like, oh, that's a pretty detailed texture there, and only upon closer inspection would a person go, wait a minute, that's not right. While Professor Marcus Plague and the rest of the presentation are on a bit of a lunch break before their final entry, I'm here to remind you that the channel is almost at 1,000 subscribers. Okay, hold up. That's me from 2 days ago. And oh boy, a lot has happened since then. Not only has the channel hit 1,000 subscribers, it's pretty much skyrocketed past that number. I can't get you the exact number at the time of the video going out because it needs to be edited beforehand, but currently we're sitting at that much, which no matter what it is insanely higher than I ever expected a subscriber count to go. So thank you all so much. I didn't plan for this to happen so soon, hence the whole post-recording thing going on here. So I'll have something more cohesive to say about it probably at the end of the next video. But what I can say right now is thank you all so much. None of this is possible without each and every one of you. And a very special thank you to Popcross Studios, who gave me a shout out, which I was not expecting. And I would be lying if I said it didn't make my day. Thank you to everyone. All right, enough rambling. Let's get back into the video. Woo! 2, there's a Discord link down below to the KyngPin Creations Community Discord where we all like to hang out and chat in between videos. It's a really fun place, so if you're interested, that'll be down below. And if you want any posters from this episode or any of the other ones, there'll also be a link to a Teespring in the description below. But with that being said, looks like the lunch bell's rung. Let's get back into it. Woo! The final SCP we're going to be looking at today is one that I disagree with in terms of its classification. But due to the abundance of weak-minded individuals that make up the only class of personnel that are allowed to directly interact with any SCPs, it's categorized as follows. Item number SCP-C-1235, or as I like to call it, the ScentSation. Object class, Euclid. Special containment procedure. The ScentStation is kept in a heavy ventilated room dressed to resemble a tropical rainforest, complete with branches and foliage. Insects are allowed to provide the SCP with sustenance, but no other wildlife is permitted inside of the cell. The room's ventilation system runs on a constant schedule, but even still, any personnel entering the containment cell should be equipped with a gas mask, unless stated otherwise by B-Class personnel or higher. Any personnel that has come into contact with SCP-C-1235, whether wearing a gas mask or not, are to enter a period of quarantine after their encounter before returning to work. Description: SCP-C-1235 is a bird-like SCP that bears similar appearance to a toucan, though there are some differences that one could easily use to distinguish the SCP from a real-life toucan. For one, it's much bigger than a regular toucan. 2, its body is bright blue and its wings are a gradient of colors ranging from yellow to purple. The beak of the subject is split into segments separated by color, and its mouth contains many tiny but sharp teeth that are able to tear through materials as strong as metal. The ScentSation also possesses all the same abilities and mannerisms of a toucan, including flight, though that could have easily been guessed due to the fact that it has wings. However, the main appeal of this SCP is the hallucinatory gas that it produces from its mouth. The gas is rainbow in color and can vary in its scent. Personnel who have come into contact with the gas have reported several different fruit scents such as cherry, lemon, lime, blueberry, and a couple of other ones, though we know that all the different scents all produce the same effect. We wonder if the scents reported are merely a subconscious manifestation from a personnel's preference to a certain fruit. The hypothesis is supported that on a single occasion, personnel had reported the gas to smell like grapefruit, which hadn't been reported before or since that isolated incident. When questioned about it several weeks later, the personnel had mentioned that his family would always eat grapefruit for breakfast during the holiday season. My deepest sympathies go to that family. Those must have been miserable holidays. Once a person inhales the gas, they will start to experience hallucinations. These hallucinations present themselves in the form of different adventures, not unlike how a person would enter a different landscape if they were to put on a VR headset. We've taken several subjects and hooked them up to nodes in an attempt to see what kind of adventures these hallucinations might entail. Our research has shown that the adventures cover all sorts of genres, but the most common ones for people to experience are a pirate treasure hunt, an alien encounter, and a fantasy world reminiscent of the Alice in Wonderland stories. All of these adventures have a clear, defined end goal that, once achieved, seems to end the hallucination. Brain scans of personnel undergoing these adventures have shown that the gas triggers the same parts of the brain that are active when a person is dreaming, and through our observations, we've concluded that time passes differently inside of these hallucinations. Most personnel cover more ground on the adventure than time has passed in this level of reality. Only a small handful of people who have come into contact with SCP-C-1235's gas have managed to escape the hallucinations and return to work as normal. Those who don't escape the hallucination within an hour of our time after contact with the gas are put into quarantine and given a period of up to 6 months, once again in our time, to complete the adventure before they are terminated. Pretty lame if you ask me. I probably wouldn't even be affected by the gas, but I'd love to go in there just to see if I can do an adventure. I'd kick those hallucinated pirates' butts and be out of there in minutes. Just goes to show you only the disposable people get to have all the fun around here. But that brings us to the end of our lecture today. If there are any SCPs from this subcategory or another that you would like to learn about, please comment them in the request box down below. Until then, I'm going to go check up on SCP-C-1235 for observational purposes. And design notes for SCP-C-1235. Feathers are hard. That's it. But in seriousness, there's aspects of this one I both love and don't love. I really like the smoke effects, as I've mentioned before in previous videos. Just they're always so much fun to work with. And the colors overall of this SCP I'm so love, especially the gradient on the wings. They look so vibrant and almost beachy, like very tropical. And that was a really good I really like that I went with the decision to do that instead of just color one slightly darker version of color that I'll usually do when laying down flats for my images. The pose, on the other hand, is alright. It's cool, but the middle part is just not doing it for me. It looks a little weird, but I'm not entirely sure why. It definitely could benefit from more detail, though. So going forward, I definitely want to up that in my creature designs. And finally, I really love the way that I translated the lore of these characters and their commercials into the SCP abilities. And I thought that was really cool. And the names, too, are kind of just little plays on different facts taken from each of them. So Honey Nut Cheerios is the cereal's age at the time of recording, 45 years old. Lucky Charms was the year it was invented, 1964. And Fruit Loops, I think, was the amount of sugar in 1 cup of the cereal, which was like 12.35 grams. So I thought that was pretty cool and a unique way of naming them, because I would not have known what other numbers to use for them. But I hope you all enjoyed Toucan Sam as an SCP. As a first go around with SCP content, I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with it. I really love the artwork, especially Lucky the Leprechaun and Toucan Sam. The harsh lighting and the smoke effects, beautiful. On the other hand, I might need to brush up a little bit more on the SCP lore just so the stories fit, per se. And Professor Marcus Plague is an interesting character. We'll see where his story goes. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like button. And if you want more of this creepier content from me, I turned JoJo stands into demons, which can be found up here. And I'll also plug the Amazing Venomized Circus series, because that's got some pretty suspenseful elements that I'm really proud of. So that one will be down there. That's all I've got for you today. My name is KyngPin Creations, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.